I try not to get too involved in politics too much in my life. I'm aware of certain things that happen around the world. The chaos that stems from the USA, I find it absolutely like barbaric on so many levels. I'm always amazed just how surreal it gets and wild. When you actually think about it, like in my lifetime, I can't even think of I mean, maybe one single decent president, maybe Obama. Um, Even then, there was issues with I can't remember specifically, but I remember there being certain policies that were a bit weren't perfect. But out of all of them, I'd argue the others have been far more inept or corrupt. It's been absolutely surreal. And then you look around the different states with the governors and the mayors and all sorts, and you can just see the division throughout the whole country, where they don't always agree with the presidency. You've got too many people elected who have a conflict of interest. A lot of people are seeing it now, especially with this TikTok ban, where the people in the Senate, I think it's the Senate, again, I'm not that up with politics, where they're voting against TikTok ban, but then they're buying shares in Meta, which is Facebook. So it's like conflict of interest or what? And it just shows the corruption in politics in America. I've said in the past, I wouldn't be surprised if um, those that run the healthcare system in America, I wouldn't be surprised if the pharmaceutical companies owned part of or at least part or of the insurance companies, and by then extension, influence heavily the healthcare providers and things. I just think, and then I bet I wouldn't be surprised if it trickles down to the food supply. That's how bad America is. It is a horrible place when you think about it, the level of corruption. And then you look at the law enforcement, for instance, you get unhinged police officers, cops, um, who have no self control. So they've got no emotional intelligence. So they're very impulsive. Um, so their ego takes a hit and they just get aggressive and they start shooting people and they call it self defense and they try to cover up. You see people on death row who shouldn't even be on death row. And again, they probably get a swift death just to avoid just to save their cover ups. There's so many things, and it's one thing after another. And it's not my issue. I'm not in America. I'm not in the USA. The sad part is though, I've been a few times and I've enjoyed my time there, but that was back in the early 2000s. I think the last time was 2008, somewhere around that period. I haven't been back since. I sometimes think it'd be nice to go one day. But in all honesty, when I keep seeing the corruption with these presidencies, I have no interest. I consider like what I do with my books and things. There could be a career in America one day, but in my heart, I don't even want to go there. I don't want to. Yeah, I look at the policies that Trump was implementing today. I'm only hearing a few of them, but I'm like, well, that's wild, that's wild, that's wild. This guy's a clown. It's like, you know, Biden looked like he was sleeping the whole way through it. Again, we know people pull the strings above them. They all just become a face puppet. Who's pulling the strings behind them? And in this side, usually you don't see it so much. But in this side, we actually saw all the billionaires, the oligarchs, the ones that actually can have the control and have all the money. We're seeing them front and center of Trump's inauguration. I didn't actually watch it; I just saw scenes. I'm not that invested. But the world has got a bit crazy. Then we start hearing the fact that Trump's going to start levying tariffs against other countries. He's going to start occupying and annexing certain countries, such as Greenland. He wants to get the Panama Canal. There was somewhere else, I can't remember, Canada. Oh, for God's sake. This guy just has there's no limit with him. I wouldn't even be surprised if he tries taking Mexico one day. I've spoke about it before. And people are mentioning it now, but I've already said it in the past. It's very Hitler-esque. Uh, and it's like, do I want to go to a country that is starting to show signs of Nazi Germany? I don't think so. That's not where I want to be at all. And I hope for God the UK stands up to this corruption that's stemming across the other side of the Atlantic. It's no point trying to be someone's best friend when they're completely toxic. Sometimes you just got to sever ties and say, look, with our neighbours in Europe, it's like we have far more in common at this point until you get your act together. I've always looked at America and considered it. It's like the Senate in the Rome. If you go back to ancient Rome and you look at the way it was all set up with the emperor is effectively the president, and then everything else trickles down. The level of corruption, you saw it with it. You hear the stories, all the conspiracies, and the fact that they would do something to remove someone from power. It was always this power battle, this power struggle. It was never about the people. It was all politics and who can be the most powerful and wealthiest. People were just pawns. People are just pawns today. I was listening to some of the policies, and I can't remember exactly which ones. Again, don't care enough. But it was obviously none of it was for the people. I think all I kept hearing from Trump was money. It wasn't money for the people. It was just money. It was like it was obvious it wasn't about people. He kept saying something about half owning TikTok. Without America, it's worth nothing. And I thought, what is he talking about? Why would TikTok be worth nothing just because America's not there? And that's the ego that stems from the USA. And the president is the most egoic of it all. And then you've got the Musks and that below him. It's like, this is ridiculous. The world can survive without the USA. Let's be true. So TikTok still survived without the USA. Yes, like we have some of our familiar content creators, and I noticed it myself that maybe if the Americans don't come back, I'll still get some content from content creators, but there would never be anything original and new. But it was evolving. You're starting to see people from other parts of the world that you haven't seen their content yet, and it's like, okay, this is interesting. It would have been fine. We would have just carried on. It's okay. The world does continue. So Americans were crying when they were leaving, and I get it. And then they were coming back, going, "Oh my God, we logged back in and all this." And the people like, we've like they say, like as if the Americans were acting like TikTok had completely shut down for the world, and now we're all back. It's like, no, it was already here. It was just you guys weren't here. I'm not trying to minimize something here, but that's where the America's at. You was the one centralized by your government and censored. We weren't. And I've said about it before. I've even spoken in some of my books where America is not the land of the free that people think it is. Now they're only just starting to wake up, but the rest of us around the world saw it from afar. But when you live close to it, I guess you just think it's normal. But the rest of us are looking at a lot of politics in America that are just not normal. Everything's there to drain you. Even, I think if I heard it correctly, Trump was talking about enacting new laws where even individuals can be sued or taken to court, whatever it was about defamation and things. But the trouble with defamation is a case of if you lie about someone. So if you slander someone's name, that means you're telling lies about them and ruining their character publicly. But if you're telling the truth, that's not slander, that's not defamation. So as long as you're telling the truth and you can prove you're telling the truth, then there's no slander involved, is there? So if you're just reporting facts as you see it, then you haven't done anything wrong. But it seems to me that he's becoming a bit of a dictator already before he's even started. And it's going to be about trying to silence people, again, so they can cover up the corruption. I don't want to be nowhere near that shit. I'm happy in England. I'm really happy over here. Thank you very much. Holidays I book will be in Europe. And that's where I see myself for the foreseeable future. I saw my future in America at some point in terms of career. But in all honesty, I couldn't give a shit. I don't even care. If let's say there was the chance one day to make a fortune in America, if it aligns with me and I think it's safe enough to travel and all these things, then yeah, I'll consider it. But I'm more than happy to live a more poor life, if you like. I'd rather live a more poor life and have my freedom, thank you. I'm okay. And I think that's the thing. So Americans have a lot to fight for right now. And it's up to them to fight for it. The world isn't going to fight for it for them. You got to do it yourself. And that means about like voting for the right people in them. And shining a light on those that are corrupt. There's no but for me, it's not my business to talk on things. I just talk about things to draw attention to it. But at the end of the day, I don't have influence in America. I'm not there. It's not effectively. It's not my job to talk upon it. I mean, I'll talk about it now because I'm just talking about upon reflection. It's something I was thinking about, but it's not saying I'm going to talk about regularly. It's none of my business. I've got my own stuff to deal with. But yeah, I just thought about it and I just looked at America. It's like this crazy, wild shit right now, and it's crazy. I said before all this, a week or so ago, USA, as it stands right now, I can see becoming a social pariah. If Trump starts putting heavy levies on other countries, like tariffs and taxes, and says this is the trade agreement, they will get isolated. You start being the bully, and you think the world's going to cater to you, you're going to find people start distancing quite quick, and your influence fades. Because no one likes a bully. The USA may think they're going to, let's say they tried to put heavy tariffs on the UK and Europe, just because UK, just by extension of Europe. Let's say they say that continent with tariff in there. Well, you watch us. I hope we stand firm. I hope the whole of Europe stands firm and says, look, we can work together within our own continent. We actually don't need things from America. So we don't actually have to do trade. And if the taxation and things are going to be so high, then we'll leave them. I mean, at the end of the day, the USA has to be aware. They keep talking about the Panama Canal. And let's talk about that. That's really important because it's the only way to connect the Pacific to the Atlantic. So USA really needs that. USA is on a block. They're obviously the American continent, but they're so vastly different in terms of cultures between North America, Central America, and South America. North America is absolutely nothing like South America. They have nothing in common. So when Donald Trump wants to start acting like America's this, America's that, it's America's isolated. You talk about occupying your friendliest neighbor in Canada. That's the only neighbor you common ground with. It's like really want to start threatening your neighbor. I just think it's quite dangerous a situation to be in, especially when they have such conflict with Russia and things. It's like really isolating yourself. That's all that happen. USA will be isolated for a period of time, and you realise the star is fading, and your influence is diminished. Startups can happen. America can start waffling on like we have to have all the social media apps. There'll be another country one day that creates apps. Sweden are quite smart with certain technologies. We see that. France, I think Poland. If someone can make video games, they can make an app. And there's a lot of European game developers, for instance. They'll be more than capable of inventing something like that. And the UK, incredible inventors. So I think the idea that America only, it's like, yeah, America only for America then, but it's up to America to join the rest of the world because at this point they're isolating and expecting the world to cater to them. And that's not how people work. You give someone respect, they reciprocate. If you start being the bully in the playhouse, people just don't want to play with you anymore. They'll smile to your face, but they won't want to deal with you. Don't trust you. If you can't trust someone, how can you deal with them? Um, I think the trouble is when it comes to world leaders. I saw a comment somewhere where someone said if the world leaders sort of coddle Trump, then don't trust them. There's an issue with that in the fact that, like, for instance, if I was the world leader, let's say I was the president, the prime minister of the UK, and I've got to deal with Trump. I'm not very good at dealing with people I don't like. I'm not a fake person. But I think when you have the weight of the whole country, my opinion of an individual doesn't outweigh my position to be the voice of the people. So just because I don't like someone, it doesn't mean that's the voice of everyone. So if I'm having to be the spokesperson for them, then I have to do it with dignity, and you're going to have to behave a certain way. So that doesn't mean the UK Prime Minister, for instance, on a personal level would like Trump. But maybe on a political level, he has to just get on just to get things done. And I think that's the trouble with politics, isn't it? That unfortunately, we just got pariahs in charge, and I think the world needs to change like that, from that sense, to have people that you can actually trust. Um, but yeah, I find it's just frustrating, because like, aside from the politics, if you remove politics and you travel to a country and you look at the culture and the people. Like if I was in America, for instance, USA, and I hired a car and I went driving on a road trip, of course there's going to be some sketchy places as there is anywhere you go, but I'm sure I'd have a great time. So it's like USA as a culture and a people isn't a horrible place. Like I said, I could have a great time. But it's when let's say you still want to start working. All of a sudden, what's the bureaucracy and the admin involved in all of this? What are the policies I need to jump through? If I wanted to relocate to America. What's the forms I'd have to fill in? What's the new laws that Trump's putting in? Because he doesn't want migrants now. Does that include everybody? So if someone wants to legally migrate to America, what's the bureaucracy with that? I'm not jumping through loads of legal loopholes when I like my own country anyway. It's crazy. And then, of course, once you start working, what's the employment rules? Oh, the employment law is, okay, maybe I make more money an hour in America, but the bills are actually higher than in the UK. But also, okay, what sort of holidays do you get? Oh, you don't get holidays. Eh? You find a lot of Americans actually don't have time to go on holiday. In the UK, you get 4 weeks a year. Usually when you start employment, you get from somewhere like 22 days a year, and it can go up to like 30 days a year. And I think there's like maybe 6 or 7 bank holidays a year as well. Bank holiday Mondays as well. These are all designated times off. So in the UK, okay, maybe our wages aren't high, but at least we've got a decent quality of life that's balanced. And then we go healthcare. It's like all these little things, they add up. And that's what scares me about America. Maybe you get an opportunity to go out there, but it's like, wait a minute, on a holiday, great. Even then it's scary because the police are unhinged. And that trickles all the way through all sorts of things, doesn't it? And again, I'm just talking from my perspective here. It's crazy to me. It's wild. How can a country be so divided is part of, I don't understand. So the USA is like the continent of Europe, but it's one country. It baffles me. So let's say I was on holiday and I drove from Atlanta, Georgia. And I wanted to go on a nice drive, and I go all the way to Vegas. I'm going to go through multiple states. Now, each of those states may have their own laws and rules. And you need to be up with the laws and rules to make sure you're not breaking those laws. And they take it very serious when you do. And it's like, this is outrageous, though, because I'm still in the USA, though. I could understand if I was going from um, Portugal, driving through Spain, France, um, Italy, and then maybe travel over to Greece. You know, you're going through the southern Europe. I can understand there's different cultures, different laws, different language barrier. But you know when you go into a new country, it's a completely different lifestyle, though. So maybe you're aware of that. Why would there be different laws in the same country, though? That's outrageous. So you'd have to know all of those to make sure you don't break the rules. Like, I know in I don't understand it because in the UK we can't do that. But you can turn right on a red light in America as long as you stop. This is my understanding. I'm not aware of it. I'm not a freaking, I don't understand half the shit in America. In all honesty, it's mental. So you can turn right on a red light as long as you make sure to stop first. So you must come to a stop so you can assess the road. If it's clear, you can turn. Now, not every state has that policy. That's quite crazy. Jaywalking's another one. You can only cross on pedestrian crossings or something. It's like, this is outrageous. If I need to go across the street, you just go across the street. Why have I got to do it like I'm a freaking, like it's a video game and I'm playing Pac-Man? You know, this is outrageous. That is crazy. So you can get done for just walking across the street. Mind boggles. It's a weird country. But again, in America, it's normal. So, you know, the rest of the world is not. Well, as I say, at least the UK, who knows what's copying America. A lot of normality actually come from UK because we was influenced a lot by the Romans, and that was influenced a lot around the world, you know. And then America starts to divvy things up and start to change things, make some new laws, new policies, new ways of living, which, if we look at America, it's a mess. And then some countries copy the Americans, and then that just ends up a mess. So we don't know where around the world is normal. I'm not saying that just because I'm British, it's just it works. In America, it just seems to be the land of the suing. So effectively, where can I drain your resources and leave you with nothing and an amount of debt? That's America. You want to have a baby, it's going to cost you $50,000. Well, that's great. So, you know, if I want to get an ambulance, it's going to be $10,000. You want an asthma pump, it's $1,000. You're like, what are you talking about? The UK ambulance is free. I need an asthma pump, I get on a prescription. It's under, if you subsidise NHS, it'll be free. Otherwise, you've got to pay maybe £10. I don't really know. If you have a baby, it's free. It's crazy to me. It's just, I think these are the things Americans are not seeing, is that if they open their eyes to the rest of the world, you realise that America unfortunately isn't that great. It just isn't. I find it frightening. I really do. It's crazy. Like, for instance, for me to travel to America, I'd have to figure out what state I'm going to go to. And then I'd have to learn up on all the laws to make sure I'm not crossing any boundaries with those laws. I don't know. I just think it's a crazy place. I saw something. I think it was the Senate. I'm not sure if it's the Supreme Court or the Senate. Again, there's so many layers to the American legal system and politics. It's mad. But there was someone, I think they said was in the Senate. I think again, it might be wrong about Senate. From the age of in their 20s all the way up to the age of 80. It's like, how can you not be voted? How can there not be a voting system like every 4 years or something to keep things fresh and fair? Like, how can you have someone? So if someone's corrupt from the age of 20 and they've corrupted the political process all the way through to their death, effectively, that's a lot of influence. That's a lot of influence, isn't it? Corruption. I don't like doing anti videos. I think I see this more of an awareness video. It hurts me more because I've always had a fondness for America, and I've always seen a potential career there one day. But at the moment, it's like I don't even have an interest. I don't. If an opportunity comes, like I say though, that's bigger than what I've got now, it would have to be something impressive. In all honesty, if it's, I would have to really think about it. It's like if I got an opportunity and it was like, let's say I'm just saying, let's say it's a really wealthy individual, and they were like, we'd like to meet you based on your work, based on what you do. We think we can work with you. Maybe we could do this business opportunity, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'd have to really think about it. Like, even if it's a lot of money, it's like, I have to think. Because at this point, I don't even know if I want to travel into the USA. You know, you've got to deal with the, what do you call it, borderland shit. So as soon as you get there, they can be a bit anal retentive with their checks and shit. And it's like, Jesus, you're just coming in to do this and I want to go home. Why is it so freaking mental? It's just the amount of administration that you need to go through and the visas and everything. It's almost like Americans think everyone's desperate to get in and stay, when most of us just want to get out. So it's like, if it's going to be that hard to get in, just to have a normal conversation with someone, then I don't want to. Don't need to. It's fine. I just create building on this side of the world. But yeah, I think something needs to happen in America, and I think it needs to happen fast, because it's losing that status where a lot of people have gravitated to and thought, it's the land of the opportunity. I think we're seeing it's the land of the depression. China's looking awfully nice right now. That's a crazy thing to be saying, isn't it? We wouldn't have thought that. Yeah. I think all of us need to readjust our expectations of this world. I think what it is we want. And I think really just don't be scared to speak up on things. You keep dimming your voice, and nothing changes. Now, people might notice I've disabled comments on YouTube and TikTok. It's because at the moment I have no interest in engaging, if I'm honest with you. I've got my books to do. I didn't intend to do more videos. I'm doing this one. But the reality is I'm not checking my videos to see if anyone's commented. So what's the point of having them available? Because I won't be answering. It's just I create to start a conversation for people in their own head, and they go and create their own content based off it. I'm too busy with my own things to get engaged here and there, here and there, here and there. Yeah, it's not my interest at the moment. I've got bigger things to do, so that's why the comments are disabled.